established, the supply chain, the inputs that we have established was actually going down because of reduction of the farmers. Or let me say, because of the farmers' capacity being reduced due to economic reasons. And that necessitated us to come up with an idea of how to sustain what we have grown over the years. And we came up with an idea of investing in the farming industry. From input supply, we should expand production. And that was what made us to think of doing a farm. In 2016, we started construction. We did the construction from January to December. Then in 2017, we had our first stock in the farm. And the first stock came in April, precisely April 24th, 2017, and we started with 2,500 bullets. When I mean bullets, I mean layers. And the reason why we choose layers in Jigawa is because we realize the gaps is more in the eggs. The meat and fish, they are also always available because the local chicken is always there, and the broiler production doesn't seem to actually satisfy our people over time. So the 2,500 lay for us for up to 12 months, and we decided to dispose. In the first 6 months of production, we decided to expand the farm by doing another construction to double the capacity in the next cycle. And we did another additional pen of 2,500 capacity. And when we sold up, we stock with 5,000 birds. That's in 2018 October. We did 5,000. So that 5,000 2018 to 2020, which we just disposed recently, was to actually use the proceeds and expand the farm and double the capacity as well, because our target is to reach 10,000 within 3 years. So unfortunately, there are some unforeseen economic circumstances that crosses that led for us to think and take a step back and reorganize ourselves and redesign how we are going to continue to do the business. And that was what made us not to expand now. But we actually now have 3 different sets of birds. But we are raising 3,200, and we are also raising another 2,000, which they are just 4 weeks apart. Then we raised 2,000 that we had issue that we had to sell, and the sell is because of the pen that we have, the capacity will not be built, and we will end up not really having what we actually targeted our market for. So we had to do it all over again. And the challenges we faced during this pandemic, they are too enormous. I cannot begin to imagine, but in business you can't keep on going straight without any challenge. So we just have to sit back, buckle up, redesign, rethink, and approach the whole situation. So during the pandemic, it affected us seriously. First, the cost of inputs have gone up. Second, the supply chain have been shuttled, or let me say interrupted, because of the pandemic, because of the lockdown. There is the restriction of movement, and the chicken have to feed. So before the Poultry Association get an approval with the government to allow the poultry and poultry product to move, we have already suffered in the supply chain. Then secondly, the prices of eggs was also affected because of the lockdown in some states. That led to us not exporting the eggs to other states or to some part of the state. So and the market here cannot really uptake what we are producing. You have to reach out to a lot of other people. So that is one. Secondly, when we want to stock the new set of birds as a replacement, we had issue of transporting the chicks that were coming from Ibadan down to Kano. We usually go to Kano and collect. The lockdown have affected the transporters. The company have produced, we cannot uptake because of the risks of the transportation problem. So we had to take a decision to see how we can increase the number. Initially, we ordered for only 2,200, but because of the lockdown restriction and the queue in the company to collect, employees here for the first time to see the performance. So the drivers couldn't pick the birds. The 200 we added on top of the 3,000 is for the mortality of transit and reason, so that we can land at the 3,000 when they start production. But unfortunately, I had to go to Zaria from Chicago to collect those birds because of the lockdown. The drivers couldn't pass Zaria, and even while coming, they had issue in Kaduna. That 200 on top had to die in the process because of the lockdown. So that is one. Secondly, we had to collect another set to balance the number that we actually wanted. And that one, they just came like 10 days back, and we didn't have much challenge like the previous one because of the lockdown had been relaxed in some states, and there was an understanding between them and the government. So thirdly, the losses we incurred most is when we want to sell off our old layers that are spent. We call the wholesalers that usually come and uptake and supply Abuja and some part of the south and Borno. And they started picking. Usually they pick maximum of 500 per truck or per delivery. And when they started picking, they picked like 6 times. That's about 3,000. And the whole lockdown affected Abuja, so they couldn't pick. And we have already touched the stock. The production have dropped. The price of eggs because of the lockdown from 850 have dropped to 700 naira. At the same time, the chickens were stocked. We couldn't sell all of them. So from then, we had to be losing on daily basis about 1,850 naira for at least close to 2 months before we were able to sell up during the sellers. So the losses are just so many, and that is one of the challenges that we faced. So the appeal I'm going to make to the government is to see how they can support. I know Poultry Association Nigeria have been pleading with the government to key into a lot of programs that will help the farmers to grow. And part of what I've seen the federal government is doing in the CBN is giving the farmers some soft loans that they can access finance and also develop the industry with the profit with the interest rate of 9%, which is even reviewed recently to 5%, which is one of the good areas. But the challenge the farmers face, some of them is not financing, it's a market. The market has been challenging, and the government has been doing a lot of programs that will support the farmers. Like the school feeding program is one of the programs that will support poultry farmers to grow and sustain the business. Because some states are actually using eggs as one of the protein source, and it helps a lot of farmers. The glut of the eggs that leads to the price to go down have been cleared in some states that are using the egg. Even though the lockdown have made the schools to be closed, but we are still appealing to the government because the government said they're going to do feeding program even at home to see how the possibility of including egg like in my state as one of the protein source that will support our farmers, because the industry is facing challenges, and it's one of the areas that gives we serve as job givers. At the same time, we serve as agents of urbanization, because most of the farms, when you look at the locations, they usually are located in rural areas, and they serve as urbanization to those people, because they give direct jobs. At the same time, the kind of construction they are transplanted infrastructures in the piece. So that is one, and the multiply effect of the poultry business in terms of employment is huge. Not to begin to mention from the processor of the feed, the supplier, the drivers, the farmers, you understand, and the chain. And after that, the production, you see, like, if you say you are doing production, you will have seen a lot of firms coming in to buy eggs that will boil and sell inside town. So it gives a lot of direct and indirect employment. Our human capacity in the company, we have 3 different sectors in the company. Actually, we have the inputs and services, which comprises of poultry, feed, the drugs, the vaccines, and the veterinary care we give to farmers. There we have our 5 staffs, direct staffs, and we have indirect staff of about 15 that are helping us to upload, load, and all that. Then in the farm, we have direct staff of 5 also, and indirect staff of 4 that comes to do some work for us when we need. Then there's another team that we do corporate services also, but also 5. So the capacity of the people working directly are 15, and the indirect people are 20. So in a nutshell, that is actually what we are doing in terms of poultry service, and we think people should come into the industry to see how they can support, because it gives a lot of opportunities to the people around us and also to us. And it serves as one of the areas that we